So, all those who are connecting with me across the country, across the globe, thank you so much for making the time. I'm very excited because we did celebrate Olympic Games and we did enjoy the accomplishments, but there are many, many difficult conversations that go behind the screen. We did a little bit of teaser where with my guests we explored what does it take to have an Olympian mindset. And today I brought in a very special guest who has not just groomed the mindsets of many Olympians, but who is also a known international player and coach himself. Along with him, I've also brought in another guest who is his star prodigy and has made all the women of our country proud with her former player and category as well as participation at many, many international forums. I'm going to introduce both our guests in just a short while. But before that, I would like to definitely tell you that these opinions are completely personal. I try and bring in only those guests who can speak from their heart, who are authentic, and who would like to share their wisdom, their learnings, and we can inspire so many of you across industries. Apply the skill sets, apply the learning outcomes from one experience to the other experiences or spheres of our lives. So, your comments and feedback through the show are extremely welcome. Please don't refrain if you want to say anything to us. We are very open to feedback. I'm Dr. D, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all for this very interesting and invigorating conversation, which is going to start shortly. Don't forget to subscribe to the D Show, and I'm trying to bring you excellent content as always. So, allow me to introduce our first guest today here. I have with us none other than Nandan Bal. Allow me to share a few of his accomplishments, ladies and gentlemen. He has captained the team for Beijing Olympics in 2008. He has coached Davis Cup and Fed Cup, and I'm not talking about his multiple tennis pro accomplishments as a player at international level that he has done, but now as a coach, he's actually giving back a lot to the society and grooming tennis players at many international levels and forums, including grooming Olympian mindsets. He has been the recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award, Dhyan Award, and contribution to tennis. And he is also the chair for the selection committee of the All India Tennis Association. He contributes and advises very religiously there. It is my privilege to welcome you here, Nandan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Divya. It's a pleasure working with you again. And I still go back to 2016 when we had so much fun, working the Olympics in that was Rio, right? Yeah, that was Rio. So it
Yeah.
was superb.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. And that was the time when I sort of understood the difference between champions and legends. And I understood what it takes to be an Olympian. And that's why I wanted to bring you because during that time, I remember you had shared some amazing, relatable insights. And I wanted to bring out more, especially with the perspective of Tokyo 2020 to all our viewers. All our viewers
Yep.
are already joining in. They are bringing in awesome comments. Yogini saying, looking forward to this interesting session as always. Hello, hello everyone. Hi Ron, good morning. Nandan is here with me. In fact, in the teaser, I was addressing him as Nandan sir, but that's how amazing and humble a person that he is that he said, Divya, just call me Nandan.
It just makes me feel a little younger, nothing else.
Yes, and we have Ranjana saying hi, and we have Dave. Thank you, Dave Buck, for joining in all the way from the US. Good morning to
Oh,
you.
wow.
It is such a pleasure to see Nandan on the D show. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. And we also have Vishal Seth saying, welcome, Dr. Divya and Nandan, sir. Lovely. So, Nandan, let's get started.
Sure.
Tokyo 2020 happened, and it was a social media Olympics. And I know you have
Yep.
some amazing thoughts around it.
Yeah.
but I want you also to put it in perspective of that we had 127 participants.
Right.
right, who had represented India at
Right.
Tokyo 2020. But yet we got 7 medals, and of course we talked a lot about it. We were overjoyed with seven medals. But
Yeah.
in your opinion, is that really a matter of pride, or is should that be a matter of more encouragement to work harder?
A couple of things. So first of all, straight away, it surely is a matter of pride. I mean, we are coming from a spot, we are coming from a space where at the earlier Olympics, we were nowhere close to 7 medals. We had the occasional medal, which came about thanks to mostly individual work. But I think the 7 medals that have come about this time are essentially because there was a program in place. And no country can ever produce medals because some individuals are trying the best to win medals, but because there's a system in place, because there's a program which is being run by people who are like-minded and who are positive and who want to see the best for this country. Now, to tell you very honestly, over the last few years, uh, there are one or two people who really have stood out, and I think they have been in the background. And I am really honestly don't know why they haven't spoken too much about how much they have achieved. They one is obviously our sports minister over the last 4 years, Mr. Kiran Rijiju, and I think he's done phenomenal work. He's very positive. He's visited all the places. He's put systems in place, and he's just been. I mean, he's been tremendous. And
Wow.
then to help him was Mr. Sandeep Pradhan, who works, I think, with the Sports Authority of India. And he was kind of the go to man for, I think, Mr. Rijiju. And I think between the two of them, they have made sure that there is now a system in place, and we are now producing world beaters, we are producing medal winners because of the system and not in spite of the system.
Very well said. Because of the system, but not in spite
Yeah,
of the system.
yeah,
Very nice. Very nice. So where are we missing, Nandan? Because a small European nation
yeah,
presents 5 athletes, bags 3 medals, but yet we are struggling to achieve. We've got only 35 medals in the entire
yeah.
125 years of Olympic history.
Well, fair enough, but I think we are also comparing a European nation where sports has priority. On the other hand, we have a nation like ours, which till now, probably the priority was putting 3 meals into somebody's stomach. So to come from there, I think to come to to a place where we have now won 7 medals, that's a start. And I think we will do better as we go on, because every time we win medals, I think the mindset of especially parents changes. They see all the awards, they see the cash prizes, they say, and that's when they say that, okay, my child doesn't necessarily have to be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, he can be a sports person. And the moment that mindset changes, I think you're going to get more people involved in sport. You're going to get more kids involved in sport. You're not going to have to worry about the board exams and what if they don't get 90%, and I mean, that's always a
Yes.
battle. That's always a battle. And unfortunately, in most sports, the big years are from the ages of 15 to 18. That's when you develop. And if at
Right.
that time you're bogged down by your studies, you've lost that time. So essentially, I'm saying that if we can actually put in place, um, let's just say a culture for a better, I mean, that's probably the best word you can use. What is culture? It's nothing but parents, children getting involved in sport. It's no, it's not any kind of scientific technology or nuclear physics or whatever. It's just simple. It comes Saturday, Sunday, the parents are out in the club, the dad is playing some sport, the mom is playing some sport, the children are playing some sport. It could be the club, it could be in a park, it could be, but just go out, be outdoors. that's what
Wow.
that's what it's about, and that's where it all starts. You don't need fancy gyms, and you don't need fancy clubs, and a great kind of program. All you need is for everybody to want to be involved in sport, and that's where
Lovely.
it can start. I think we are at that level now, especially after this last Olympics. We are at that level now.
And I'm so happy. It's a good validation for me when we are discussing, and I get acknowledgements from the viewers. So Swati Deshpande is saying yes, mindset of parents is very important.
Yeah.
And we have Anupam asking us the question, Nandan, why has India participated in just 18 out of 35 categories at Tokyo?
Well, it's very simple. No? There is a qualification mark for every sport. And so if you're not good enough, you don't get in. Obviously, the whole world can't be there. So there's a very specific qualification mark. It, for example, in tennis, which is my sport, you know, it's entirely dependent on your ranking, on
Right.
your world ranking, whether you're in the men's or the women's, whatever it is. And that's why in tennis we unfortunately lost out on a chance on a mixed doubles medal. We did lose out on the chance there. A whole lot of things got said about that, and it became a big controversy, which it should never have been, because this was the one time where the association really went out of the way to try and push, our mixed doubles team in. Well, unfortunately, it didn't happen because the rules were very stringent, and especially this time, the host nation didn't really want any extra people there. So they were trying to cut out as many people. They finally, at the end of the day, they just said that the mixed doubles will be taken only from those people who are already present in Tokyo. And unfortunately, our men's player didn't have a ranking good enough to be in the men's doubles. And I think that's where we lost out. I thought we had a reasonably good chance at a mixed doubles medal, which with Sania and Rohan.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah.
That I was about to come to this, that why in tennis? I mean, the country has so many good coaches like you, and I'm going to bring in Radhika very shortly, who is
Okay.
your prodigy and who is a woman coach herself. But why is it, whether it's singles, doubles, mixed doubles, why are we not making our country proud at Olympic Games? And we have 4 years to prepare. Where is the gap? If you can help us understand.
Yeah, but first of all, the last 2 years haven't helped, especially for speaking specifically about the Tokyo Olympics. The last two
Right.
years have definitely not helped because none of our players, and I mean that's worldwide, nobody got a chance to make points, make ranking points because there were no tournaments happening. So whatever were the rankings 2 years back, and they went by what is known as protected ranking. So whatever was the ranking 2 years back was used kind of, there were very, very few tournaments that happened in the last 3 or 4 months. Nothing happened the whole of last year. And that was the basis for the ranking. I think if
Wow.
if we had actually gone back, if there had been more tournaments, I think Rohan would have had an opportunity to improve his ranking. So would have David Sharan, and then they would have got into the men's doubles, which would have then automatically also put them into the mixed doubles. We did have one person in the singles, but
Right.
to be very blunt about this whole thing, singles, a medal in singles or a win at a Grand Slam, a title win at a Grand Slam in singles is very, very far away, very far away. And the reasons for that could be varied. I mean, we are looking at a sport which is mostly concentrated in Europe
Right.
or in America or to a large extent in South America. Now, none of these three continents are very accessible to us.
Right.
And so, for us to make a breakthrough into Europe, into the top of the 100 rankings in Europe, you need to base yourself in Europe. How many Indians can afford that? How many Indians? And I've always believed that that most good players, champions, would actually come out of a middle class family, not the rich class, not the poor class. And I'm not trying to be, very, I'm not trying to put anything into the minds of people. All I'm
Of course.
saying is it's the middle class that is by and large the most hungry.
Right.
They also are at a stage where they can see the good life if they do well,
Right.
and yet they are also at a point where they feel that if I don't succeed in tennis, then I may actually move from middle class to even a lower class because I've spent all my young years training and working to be a tennis player. And if at the end of it, if I don't even have that, then I don't even have a job in this country. I mean, we
So it's
have
more like a make or break, right? It's survival.
exactly, exactly. So
But do we need that kind of pressure for Indian players and athletes to give out their best? I mean, does that
yeah,
give
I
us?
mean, the way to be honest, pressure is good. I mean, that's
Okay,
what separates the champions from the rest of the league. Pressure
right.
is good. And so at some point, I mean, I remember that when we were young and we were traveling, there was always that pressure that we may not have enough money to play next week because if we lose in the first round here. And trust me,
Yeah.
that pushes you a lot harder than anybody else, anything else. So, I mean, when you know that if you don't perform today, you may not eat tomorrow. I mean, that's a very, very, what do you call it, a motivating point there.
So good you talk about, money, because Yogini here is saying, is there shortage of funds and facilities given to our sports people, which affects their preparation?
Yeah, so I think to a large extent, the when she speaks about sports people, I'm going to separate the racket sports or maybe something like a golf because those are considered kind of elitist sports where you
Right.
need to be a member of a private club. We don't have public parks where you can go and play tennis or golf. So you need to be a member of a private club. You need to be, and for that, your father needs to be or your mother needs to be a prominent citizen of the city where, they can afford to be a member and so on and so forth. And then once you get into a private club, you know, the juniors and the kids are still second class citizens because the private club, the parents are the ones that are going there for their enjoyment. So
Right.
unless we have the association or the government looking at public parks where everyone has access. I mean, if I was a 12-year-old boy and I was told that, okay, you are a member of this private club, but you can play only 1 hour a day, that doesn't help.
Yes.
You
That
need to
doesn't
have an
help.
access to a public park where you can be there 6 hours a day, 8 hours a day, whatever it takes. So that's, I think, very important. People talk about creating infrastructure. So that's what it is. I mean, you need to create that infrastructure with public money so that the boy on the street or the girl on the street has an option of going there and practicing.
So I'm glad because it connects to the next question, which I had in my roster, as well as
Yeah.
we have Vikash Kripalani asking, how can corporate India push for a larger sports culture? Considering the fact that JSW hogged a lot of credit on social media for,
Yeah.
giving the backing to Neeraj and
Yeah.
Punia. But can they play a role? Can they sponsor parks, like you are saying? Can they give us the
Yes.
infrastructure?
Yes. I think the need of the hour certainly is the infrastructure. Yes. After you create the infrastructure, the next step then is to then develop the kid, individually, pick up talented kids and then sponsor them to, whatever, train, travel, whatever it is. But the essential part with where corporates can help today first is to create that infrastructure. Fortunately, in tennis over the last 20 years or 30 years that I've been involved, I'm seeing a lot of the state associations take up that mantle. And just about
Right.
every state now has its own tennis center, which is a good thing. So that's the beginning. And now the next step would be where corporates come in and start helping out with, financing talented kids, financing children who can make a name, not just for themselves, but for the nation or for that company that's sponsoring them, whatever it may be.
And maybe if they bring it as a part of the curriculum at a younger teenage, it might
Yes,
just help us by the time they grow up to, adults. It might just help us to
absolutely.
actually shape better. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Rajan Sharma is saying pressure is good, but government should have some backup plan to reward people who made to say district or state level. It should not be all or none phenomena. That's ground roots uplifting. In fact, Nandan, one of the questions which came in earlier got submitted was also about that, why is it that the Indian government always rewards with, maybe, make him a soldier in IPS services or give
Okay.
him an honorary rank after the Olympian is back, right?
Yeah.
Why don't we have a certain employment scheme which probably gives them encouragement from a very young age, which of course will take away their focus of appearing and preparing for the boards? Is there some talks going on, because I know you're involved at
Yeah,
AITS level,
it's
All India
correct.
Tennis
So I,
Association?
I'm sure it's across all sports. But when I talk specifically of tennis, almost 80 to 90% of all the petroleum companies
Okay.
have actually, they have on their rolls all the top tennis players in the country today. So there is a
Wow.
backup plan there, because these petroleum companies are all, they're all government funded, or they're all public limited government companies. So there is a definite plan where almost all the tennis players today, the top players, I mean, you name them. There's Rohan Bopana, there's Ankita Raina, there's David Sharan. All of them are employed by some petroleum company or the other. But this doesn't end here. This actually starts where these petroleum companies are now picking up 15 and 16-year-olds and putting them
Okay.
on a scholarship. At that point, they can't give them a job, but they are putting them on a scholarship with the understanding that as they get better at their sport, their chances of getting a permanent job gets brighter. So that's a good
Wow.
system. Now, I'm not sure if the other corporate sectors are doing it, but I know the public sector, as far as tennis is concerned, is surely doing this along with the petroleum companies. Then there's railways, there's some of the banks, and I think a lot of them are actually doing a lot of work. Like I said, we are at a point where we are just at the beginning. We've just started winning medals, and it's only going to get better, especially
Better.
when you have people at the helm who are very clear about their policies and who are very clear that yes, we need to make India a sports loving, sports performing nation.
Actually, that is so beautifully said. Sports loving and sports performing nation. Because in a population of what, approximately 1.38 billion, we are
Yep.
still not churning out sports
Yep.
performers. I'm having amazing questions coming in, but at this point, let me bring in your prodigy so that we get a little insight and perspective of how she came about and what sort of struggles and difficult conversations she's had to get
Okay.
up. So I'm going to bring in none other than Radhika Kanitkar here. Hi, Radhika. How are you doing?
Hi, nice to be here. Hi, sir.
Hi, Radhika.
So let me tell my viewers that not just she is a star prodigy of Nandan Bal, but also she's a former Fed Cup player and official coach of the Indian women's and junior teams. She's the only Indian woman coach with highest coaching qualification, that is ITF level 3. So this is amazing, Radhika. As a woman, you've gone on to represent our country not just at a national but international level, but now you're coaching as well. And you must have heard Nandan speak about so many aspects related to Tokyo 2020. Let me make it simple for the viewers' sake to bring in a question. How difficult is it for women to navigate in the field of sports? Tell me that.
Well, I think if you see in the past couple of years, women have been performing exceptionally well, even at the Olympics, even at the Olympic level. So, like, I mean, Nandan sir was my coach in probably the best years of my tennis career.
Oh,
So, like I mentioned,
I thought she was going to say he was the best possible coach she could have had, but that's okay.
everybody knows that, sir. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been trained by male coaches, and as of even today, the number of female coaches in India is much lesser as compared to the male coaches. But
So
there are a lot of,
why is
yeah,
that? Why do you think why is that? I'm going to take your take on why do we have very few women coaches, and then I'm going to have Nandan comment on it. Why do we have few women coaches? Because I remember when I was representing my state at badminton level and where I was exploring coaches, even at that point in time, I had mostly male coaches. So why do we have that in India? Women don't want to be in the sports field, or they are pushed towards matrimony. What is it?
I think a woman goes, I think, through I mean, lot of different phases in life. So, you have studies, then you get to a age where parents want to get you married, so the priorities for women keeps changing. So that is one of the major concerns I feel, why they are not able to sustain a coaching career
So
in
all the
sport.
women watching this show, they were, I'm sure with me, they are curious that after you represented the country at Fed Cup, did you also have pressure of, domesticity? Or once you made our country proud, you are representing us at international forum, you don't have those pressures.
No, I mean, I can speak from what I went through. So, a number of hours, let's say a high performance player would need from a coach. I think the male coach, especially in India, is able to give that time, whereas the female coaches, I personally struggle to give that much time to that player, because it was maybe my family, my children, my husband. uh, so that's difficult in a country like India, I honestly feel. So you can't
Right.
really keep those issues completely aside. And coach, I cannot coach. I have a child, 6-year old child. I cannot be on the court 10 hours a day, which probably a male coach can. And I think that is one of the major reasons. I don't know what Nandan's take is on that.
So, Nandan, first time in Olympic Games in 125 years, I posted on this on social media. We had 49% athletes
Yeah,
who were women. There was
yeah.
sort of a gender parity that we saw. How far behind are we when it comes to Indian athletes and Indian women representing us?
Well, I forget the representing part. How about the fact that I think almost all the medals that came in were won by women?
Wow.
So, yeah, I mean, I think apart from the men's hockey team and possibly was it Bajrang Punia and one more, I think it was another wrestling medal. I think everybody else, and for me, I think for me, the biggest one was somebody like a PV Sindhu. Because
Absolutely.
she came out of a sport which has just not happened in the last 2 years. So for her to not play at all, train only, very limited training at just possibly under all the, security and bio bubbles and this and that, it's not easy to go out there and perform the way she performed. She was number 6 in the world and all the top 5 were playing. So for her to come
Wow.
out and reach the semis itself was great. Okay, she took a beating from the eventual winner. That's fair enough. I mean, who she lost to, she was world number 1. But what was fascinating was the way she came back to win that bronze medal match. As tennis players or table tennis players or badminton players, we are in a we are always playing tournaments where when you lose, you pack up your bags and you leave that evening. And so for
Okay.
us, yeah, I mean, it's a knockout thing. So for
Yes.
her to, not having to pack up a bag, but think about what went wrong the previous day and set it right the next day, and
Right.
then be mentally strong enough to overcome that loss from the previous day, I think was fabulous. I thought
Wow.
she played the match of her life, I think, in that
Life.
bronze medal match.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and that just comes from pure mental strength, pure mental ability to sustain and want to go home with a medal. That want, that hunger, that's the one that actually keeps a sports person alive. It's not those cars that they're offered and plots of land and money and all that. It's not that. For a sportsman, for an athlete, the number one thing on their mind is always their pride of performance. Everything
Beautifully
else is
put.
secondary. So I think for
Absolutely.
me, PV Sindhu was fantastic, and so were the other girls who did so well. I mean, what about our hockey team? When you talk about girls, I think that hockey team was fabulous. They took a huge beating in those first 2 or 3 matches, and then they came back so strong, and eventually, to beat Ireland, Australia, South. I mean, it was just amazing. The first 3 days of the tournament was a different Indian women's team, and the last 4 days was a different Indian
It was a
women's team.
completely different.
Yeah,
I
it
know.
was amazing.
And I'm glad that Kamal Sharma agrees with us. He's joining us from the US. He says equal women leadership representation in sports administration needs to be part of our sports development strategy. 50% of our population are women. We need to unleash this potential. So I
Oh,
think, Nandan,
absolutely.
you're talking about potential, and we need to give this more encouragement.
No, absolutely. Without a doubt. No
Wow.
question about it. I mean, Radhika spoke about the fact that there were not enough good women coaches in the country, but I think there are enough good, not just good, great tennis coaches in the country. Unfortunately, they're not getting that breakthrough. But I
Right.
think once they start, I mean, I think one of the things that we have done at the AITA level is that if a women's team is going somewhere on an international level, it will be the captain will be a woman and the coach will be a woman. It's as
That
simple as that.
decision. Oh, really? That decision has
Oh,
been
it's
taken.
in place now. Yeah, it's in
Okay.
place.
Oh, great.
Am I right there, Radhika?
Yeah, yeah. I think
It is like that now. Yeah,
yes, yes. I
yeah,
mean, earlier when I represented India, I think we used to have male coaches traveling with us. So I
yeah.
think yeah, now it's a female coach,
Correct.
surely for
Exactly.
a ladies team or a girls team.
Well,
Yeah.
that's an insight for all our viewers as well, because we don't get to see and hear these things. And this is what this show is all about, where we talk about behind the screens action. So, Radhika, I want to, Nandan spoke about the mental strength. And at the end of the day, it boils down to the mental strength. And I know in Rio Olympics, Nandan, we spoke a lot about what it takes to keep ourselves strong when it comes to at an Olympic game level. But Radhika, I want to know from you, give us a little story or an insight of how you feel when you're representing our country at, let's say, a Davis Cup or a Fed Cup. You're there. What sort of pressure is your mind? And especially because my viewers and my audience will understand, two of our athletes at Tokyo 2020, we saw, who have brought this whole mental health issue to the forum,
Yeah.
right? So why don't we, talk about that? Radhika, what sort of pressure do you go through as a player?
So, like I think Nandan sir said before, pressure is good, you know. So when we play for our country, the Indian flag is what we play for. You know, we don't play for ourselves. So it's always the country comes first. Though tennis is an individual sport, but so there is added pressure, no doubt. I mean, if I were playing as a Radhika Tulpule in a individual tournament, and if I was playing a singles match in Fed Cup, definitely the pressure I feel as a player is different, because it's the country's flag that I'm carrying. But at the same time, it's a lot of pride, and I mean, those are kind of feelings that you can't really explain, but you feel them so strongly deep within, and it makes you more hungry. It makes you want to give your best every single point. So it's a great feeling, and it's a really it's enjoyable, no doubt.
Fantastic. Nandan, let me bring you in into this perspective. We had two athletes at Tokyo 2020. Prior to that, we had another of our, lady Naomi Osaka, who also bailed out. And there is a lot of chatter about mental health. Give us a little insight about what an Olympian goes through and what can they do? What is that thin line where it goes beyond? So it's a breakdown, but otherwise it's a pressure. How do we understand that?
Oh, wow, that's a that's a tough one. But yeah, I mean, when you speak about mental toughness, I'll take you back to a match that I was involved. I'm not involved in as a player, but as the coach of the Indian team, and we had one of our top players at that time in singles, not doubles, Mahesh Bhupati, and Mahesh was playing the singles, and he was playing the fourth match, and we were down 2 matches to 1 against Chile.
Wow.
Mahesh was not expected to beat the other guy, and he was down 2 sets to love, and everybody's head was hanging down. And at the change of ends, Mahesh just looked at everyone, and he just said one thing. He said, "Guys, this ain't over yet." That's all he said. But that picked everyone up. And then the next over the next 2.5 hours, he went out, overcame every possible difficulty, including cramps and the heat and everything, and came out a winner. So
Wow.
that is one example of where your mental strength stays positive. On the other side, on the flip side, we had a match when we played what is now Croatia. There was, I guess, it was Yugoslavia then, and it's Croatia now. But we had Goran Ivanisevic, who's a legend, and Goran was playing. Goran was playing Leander in the Davis Cup match, and he was killing Leander. And somewhere along the way, Leander found a way to claw his way back in, and by the end of the third set, which Leander won, Goran was a spent man. And all
Wow.
that pressure just took a toll on him to the point where he came to the fourth set. And at the fourth set, he actually got into a fight with his father, who was on the sidelines, and he actually threw him off the court. He had him thrown off the court. That's what he couldn't handle. And by the time he got into the fifth set, this was not a Goran that we saw at Wimbledon. This was a Goran that we saw only in Delhi once in a lifetime, but a completely broken down, to the point that every time there was a change of side, the umpire actually had to remind him that he had to get back on court. He was that broken down.
Wow.
So that's the
Wow.
other end of the spectrum where pressure can go, either make you do things which are fantastic or just break you down completely. I think this was also at a time which was almost 20 years back now. Over the last 20 years, what has made it, and actually give a personal opinion, and I'm going to say what has made it worse is all the media hype of expectations around a player. I mean, I can understand somebody like Naomi Osaka, who's barely into her 20s, the kind of press that she must have to deal with day in, day out. I mean, we lose one cricket match and, people are ready to throw the whole team off the universe. When you go to Brazil, there have been instances where when they lost a football match to, actually, if they lost to Argentina, there's been a case where the goalkeeper of the match was actually knifed 2 days later. He was knifed to death 2 days later. So that's the kind of pressure that they are facing with. And now with all this social media, with Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and just print media, TV media, everything, the pressure is just going to keep building. And it needs a very, very balanced person to be able to handle all that. The good part is you actually now also have good, your mental trainers. There's
Which
it's
is fairly new concept, I think,
it's
in the recent
yeah,
years,
yeah,
right?
it's a new concept, but we've got some really good people in, I mean, we are sitting here in Pune, and I think one of the best people that I know sits in Pune. And it's we
Wow.
yeah, yeah, we are really, I think we have been fortunate to have someone like that. He's attached to a scheme. He's also attached to, I think now he's working with the Army Sports Institute. He's working with one of the IPL teams. Fantastic. I mean, that's so sport is not just become something which you could go in the evening and play for a couple of hours and then come back, do your homework and go to sleep. Sport has now become much more. There's the talent that takes you into sport. There's the hard work that makes you excel at sport. And then you also have all these, you know, what you might call ancillary units where there's
Units.
there's the sports,
Nutrition
yeah,
and
there's nutrition, there's sports medicine, there's the mental training, the physical training, and all of that is what helps put together an athlete at the end of the day.
how nice. Thank you for sharing your perspective,
Yeah,
Nandan.
sure.
Homie from Abel Boats is saying, hi, I train persons in sailing, basic and ocean sailing. There's a whole mountain of change that we can wish for in terms of administration, government, and the governing body of a particular sport. Well, absolutely. I think I'm not sure. I don't think you're from India, but thank you for joining in and sharing that perspective with us. And that is absolutely true. I think the partnership has to be a three-way now. It
Yes.
cannot be just the responsibility of the government. Corporates have to play their role, and individuals and parents, I think, have to play a huge role.
Yeah.
Radhika, what do you think? If your child wants to give up studies and just go headlong into sports, would you be okay with that? Because, especially in the current pandemic times, I've seen so many parents fussing about the boards, why the boards are not happening.
No, I think I would be perfectly fine with it. Coming from a sports family,
Exactly.
so we already understand what it's like, and will definitely encourage her to do whatever she wants. I mean, I've been asked a lot of questions every time whether she'll take up tennis or will she play golf like my husband does. So I mean, we are just like she'll play whatever she wants to play. Or end of the day, if she chooses that she wants to go all bookish and study really hard and get good marks, that's what it will be. So
Okay,
we'll
too.
support her in whatever she wants to do basically and give her that freedom.
So, as a young coach of the junior team, we have Vikash asking, why don't you address this question? Mindset coaching to unlock a killer instinct seems to be required. We talk about killer instinct. So, Radhika, tell me something when you're coaching, like Nandan highlighted, the mental strength is very important. We've seen it with some athletes at Tokyo 2020 also. They couldn't perform because they weren't feeling mentally up to it. So, in your opinion, how much of a percentage do you devote to mentally strengthening for your coaches or for the players that you're grooming versus actually the physical fitness and the techniques and the endurance that you bring them
So
to practice?
I think now it has to be a combination of all the things, like Sir also said. So mental training has become an important feature for important component for development of an athlete. So we do. I mean, apart from a lot of really good sports psychologists available in Pune itself, which I think the our kids are very lucky to have. We also incorporate a lot of on court mental training, coaching while coaching. I mean, a lot of it
Okay.
has been learned. I have learned it from Sir himself. So during our daily practices and daily drills, um, we try to train them while they are playing tennis, so they understand the pressure of score, they understand the pressure of what's an important point, what the mindset should be. So overall, I think a lot of emphasis has been put into mental training of an athlete now, and coaches also are getting aware of how important these things are, and I think it's going in a good direction, if you ask me.
That's very well said. And thank you for those encouraging words. And all the parents who are listening, you don't have to go anywhere. All you have to go do is go reach out to Nandan Bal Tennis Academy, reach out to Radhika Kanitkar, who's here on the show, and make sure that your children are groomed if they want to choose tennis. If not, then I'm sure on social media they can even recommend their colleagues, or you can get in touch with us how we can refer you to the other sports academies which are shrubbing, by the way. Shooting is coming in a big way in Pune again. I'm aware of that.
Yes.
And there are many other sports which are coming around. Yes, we need to give it a wholehearted push from a 360-degree view. It's not just one stakeholder's responsibilities. So, Radhika, I know you're having a paucity of time, but before you go, I want to ask you a quick two, three simple questions. Tell me one thing that you like about Nandan or you learned from him, that one thing
One
that
thing is a
has
tough
helped
one to
you.
answer. Just one thing is really a tough one to answer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
as far as I mean, he was always very disciplined, I can say, very strict on court, a total no nonsense guy, when it comes to his trainees and his coaching. So that's something which I feel really helped and is really needed, I think, for today's generation. So I think Sir might agree with me on that a bit. So
Yep.
I
But I'm
think
also a little bit embarrassed, but that's okay.
no, no.
Okay, so it will be easier for you on this very candid forum to say what is that one thing you didn't like about Nandan Bal Tennis Academy? Was it too much work, too much running, too much pressure?
Ah, no, probably keeping a tab on my diet when I was
Okay.
traveling. That's one part which I didn't was not
she
very
she
happy
she
about.
she she was traveling with the wrong guy. If she wanted to, if she wanted to keep track of her diet.
Well, Jolly is saying thanks for this insightful chat today. Jolly is joining in from Canada. So we have viewers from US, Canada, Singapore, across the globe. Radhika, your parting message to all our youngsters who aspire to be coach like you and a player like you, what would you like to say to the viewers today?
I think to all the young, young kids who would like to make sports into career or who are looking at sport, I think first of all I would like to tell them to dream big, because unless they dream big, they cannot achieve their goals. So I think that is very important, and be disciplined. Work hard, and if you work hard, you'll always be rewarded at some point of time in your life. So do the right things which are there in your control, and the rest, I mean, I'm sure the success will come to you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been a pleasure to have you, Radhika. And I'm going to continue grilling Nandan here for a few more minutes before I let
Okay.
him go. So
Thank you.
Thanks,
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Radhika.
Radhika.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Divya.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Yes,
Keep dreaming.
definitely.
Okay.
Wow. So, Nandan, I have many questions coming in, and I'm going to quickly pick them up so that we
Divya,
can answer.
can I just go back for 1 minute?
Yes,
Because
yes,
one of the things that came up when we were talking about mental training, there was
yes,
that specific word, killer instinct, that came up on
yes.
the screen. And I think I'd like to speak a little about that. There's
Sure.
so much about, you keep hearing this. We have the killer instinct. We don't have the killer instinct. We lose at the last minute. We lose out on the last point. So, what is this killer instinct that people talk about? I mean, I've been teaching tennis for 31 years now. I still don't know what the killer instinct is. But, but I will tell you one thing. Just like everything else, winning is a habit that you form.
Wow.
Similarly, losing is a habit that happens. If you get onto the bandwagon of trying to make sure that winning becomes a habit, you have the killer instinct. And if you
And
don't, you don't have the killer instinct. It's as simple as that. As long
so
as,
simple.
yeah, it's that simple. I mean, you don't need to grind your teeth and pump your fist to show people that you have the killer instinct. All you need to do is be balanced. Think with your brain, not your heart when you're playing. Yeah, sure, before the match, yes, think with your heart, think big, dream, all that. Yes, it's good. But when you're on the field, when you're on the court where your performance matters, that's where you need to put your heart away, get your mind to work, and that way you start winning more. And once winning becomes a habit, people start saying, oh, he has the killer instinct.
Wow.
So it's as simple as that.
I like
Okay,
how
go ahead.
you defined it so simply. And I think
Yeah.
everybody who's learning today, and I think this definition can be taken from probably a tennis court or from a sports field to even the business world, right,
Absolutely,
Nandan?
absolutely. Or
Yeah,
even for studies.
even for studies.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Kannan, he is saying, Nandan, I think you should talk about or mention the parents' role in your personal success. Wow. Somebody is trying to hint at what
Yeah,
was
well,
the role in your.
Kanan's an old friend. Kanan's an old friend. Yeah.
Okay.
So
But is there a learning there for all of us? Please do
yeah.
share.
So Kanan's an old friend. We've known each other since college days. But yeah, I think he probably wants to mention I guess my specific parents' roles. So both
Yes.
my parents played sport at a very decent level. My father played tennis and table tennis at the university level, and probably a little better than that. My mom, in
Wow.
fact, played at the national level in badminton. And
Wow.
so, yeah, and so, that's probably why I got the kind of backing that I did from home. So when I spoke about the middle class, one of the things my father was in the LIC, and one of the things that my father always told me was, he said, Nandan, whatever you need to the best of ability, we will give it to you. But at the end of the day, if you don't succeed in sport, your options are very limited. So that's, you know, the decision to continue with sport or not is yours, as long as you know that the other option of not succeeding in sport is not that great. But
Wow.
if you take that decision to continue with sport, we are there to back you 100%. And I think for that, I will forever remain, indebted to them.
So
It's amazing.
I'm curious, if you weren't a tennis pro, if what other profession would you have done?
You, this is, maybe I'm begging for a job, but I think if I was not a tennis professional, I probably would have been a driver because that's the only thing in my life that I'm very passionate about. So if somebody's out there, needing a decent driver, I'm ready. The sight is still 2020, vision is 2020. I can hear well. I should be okay, So, but yeah,
Wow.
I honestly, to tell you very honestly, I can't think of anything else I could have been except a tennis player. Because for me, from the age of 12, there has nothing else in my life except tennis. So it's as simple as that.
One of your big fans is saying, Nandan sir, you must write a book. You're an ocean of experience and real life stories. Your book will inspire many. I can write your book if you want to write a biography.
Okay, that would be great. But I could ask.
Let's do it.
I think Ame Natu's written it, and then now that's something I'd like to mention here. I'd like to talk
Okay.
about Ame actually, and he's
Okay.
not a sports person, but I think he's one of the finest human beings I have ever met.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 3 or 4 weeks back, when Chiplun was down with floods, the entire village, the entire town was underwater to the extent that Amey lost everything that he had, all his business, all his, he deals in tea and he lost all his tea. And yet, for the next 10 days, Amey was not sitting at home and, crying about what he had lost. He was out there in Chiplun helping other people clean up their houses and bringing in medicines for them, bringing in food for them. So now that he's on here, and I don't even know where he got the internet connection from because I know Chiplun is down. But thanks, Amey, and I think you've done a wonderful job at your hometown.
Amay, we are inspired with your story, and I think you are a true unsung hero. And thank you, Nandan, for highlighting this because it is going to be motivating for all of us during these tough times. Yes, Tokyo
Yeah.
Olympics happened, but I think whether it's been mind power or it's been body power, these times have been some of the most difficult times for everybody with some natural calamities and, of course,
Yes.
coronavirus amongst us.
Yeah.
So we wish you a lot of strength, Ame, and continue doing what you're doing. And I think when the net connectivity is great, I would love to bring you on my show. This is the whole idea where we can highlight some great stories. Okay, so let's just, people are complimenting your sense of humor, Nandan, and they are also saying that you're extremely inspiring and motivating. They are saying three cheers to Ame.
Yeah.
Yes, this is amazing. I love a live show format. If you remember in Rio 2016, also it used to be a
Yes.
crazy schedule. We were staying
Yeah.
in the hotel, working for almost 12, 14
Yeah,
hours
it was
Rio
24 by
time,
7 almost.
24 by 7. And
Almost,
this
yeah.
is what I wanted to recreate here.
Terrific.
So
Yeah.
I have created a nice rapid fire round, and of
Uh-oh.
course, you don't know what the questions are, but
Is,
I'd
is this
like
one of
to.
those Karan Johar type of rounds? Things?
Kind of, but much
Okay.
better. And
Okay. All right. Good.
yeah,
Okay.
much better version of that. Karan, if you're listening, I have rapid fire with better content. Don't kill me for
Okay.
it. Okay. All right, so here it goes. Your favorite surface to play: clay, synthetic, grass.
Grass.
Tennis goat for you: Federer, Nadal, Djokovic.
For me it's Federer, but that doesn't
Wow.
that doesn't take anything away from the others. But for
Okay.
me, definitely Federer.
And can you tell us who is the newbie on the block that you are watching out for? So we would also root for that person.
To tell you very honestly, and I don't want to boast about it, but I had actually expected Zverev to do well. And the day that Zverev beat Djokovic, I was having a conversation with Namita, with my daughter, who's also big time into tennis and teaching tennis. And, I made a little money there
It
because,
wa-
yeah, so Zverev is one of them. Tsitsipas definitely. There's Dominic Thiem. I mean, these are the 3 or 4 guys. And then there's always someone who will come out, from behind all of them. And you never know,
you never
you
know.
never know. He'll just show
We've
up.
seen so many surprises. How about
Yeah.
the women players? Who do you think is the future?
Well,
Grand
very,
Slam
I
star.
mean, very clearly, Naomi Osaka is still there and she's going to
Yes.
be there for a long time. But the one girl that was really impressed is Swiatek from Poland. You know, a young girl, 17 or 18, but she's brilliant. And I'm sort of going to put my sort of reputation on line here. And I'm going to say that Swiatek is going to be the Federer of women's tennis. She's brilliant.
Wow.
Yeah, she's brilliant. I
We,
love
we
the
are
way
going
she
to,
plays.
after
Yeah.
the show, we are going to bet on this.
Okay. All right. I could always use more money. So,
So, your favorite style of play, serve and volley or baseline?
well, serve and volley, but that's my generation. Today, if you
Okay.
play serve and volley, you're not going to win a match.
Wow, you have to play baseline.
Yeah. I mean,
So,
that's the
tell
way they
us,
have that's the way they have designed the the court surface, the heaviness of the balls. They want to see more tennis, and that happens only if you're on the baseline. You know.
so why don't you tell us one thing at this point to all our viewers? And I do know that today many youngsters are opting for tennis. Would you be comfortable sharing one tip that is given out at Nandan Bal Tennis Academy, but they can incorporate through our show for their children's tennis future?
Uh, there's really no one tip. I mean, the only one tip that you can give to budding youngsters is that listen, the only thing that's in your control is how hard you work and what you put in, because what you put in is what you're going to get out. So you need to put in 100% to get 100% back. But at the end of the day, the one thing that I always tell my kids is go out and do what you're comfortable with. Don't try and copy someone. I mean, the big hero in tennis today, and I don't know whether it's hero slash villain or whatever, but it's Nick Kyrgios. And I have
Yes,
kids in my
yes.
academy who are trying to copy what Nick Kyrgios is doing, and he's different. He's different. He can get away with what he does, but you need to understand that you're not Nick Kyrgios. In our time, it was John McEnroe. Who could get away with losing his mind
Losing.
but
Yeah.
still perform. And not too many people can do that. So my only advice is that be yourself. Don't try and emulate anybody. Don't try and copy someone's style. Do what is best for you. Tennis, I mean, as much as I say that tennis has become one dimensional, especially ladies tennis now, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it's very one dimensional. Everybody's only trading ground strokes. Everybody's only playing from the baseline, and that's the style of play today. But you had a
Right.
Roger Federer who came in and changed all that and came into the net and started winning matches. So
Right.
basically he it was because of his individual. He knew his mindset. He knew what he was all about, and he used it to his advantage. So if you're aggressive by nature, it doesn't make sense to be on the baseline, park yourself there, and play all day, because at some point you're going to crack. On the other hand, if you're a very defensive oriented guy, if you don't like taking chances, not just on a tennis court, but in life, then you're going to stand on the baseline and be happy with whatever the opponent, when the opponent misses, I'll win, but I don't want to take a chance and win myself, kind of thing. So
Right.
it's all individualistic. And that's what,
Very valuable.
yeah. I think
Focus.
if you go back to say um, other fields of say maybe like an art, and we have this huge show that goes on with the young kids coming out and singing, and I see them trying to copy a Kishore Kumar or whatever from the
Yeah.
early days. And a lot of the judges actually tell them, listen, don't try and copy somebody, but do
Bring
what,
your own style.
yeah, bring your own thing into it. And that's exactly what it should be in any sport. you know
So, who has been your all-time favorite Indian tennis player?
Ramanathan Krishnan.
Fantastic. And who should we look out for? Who has the conviction and the I would say the grit to make it to the next Olympics? Who do you think?
But right now, the one kid that's showing some promises, Sumit Nagal, who's out there, and he already played this Olympics, and he should be around for the next one too. But then we have, like I said, we've lost 2 years. We lost 2 years. I think we had a bunch of 8 to 10 guys who were ready to make a breakthrough, but over the last 2 years, they have done nothing except sit at home, and now they're
Right.
finding it difficult to get out and make a comeback. come back into big time sport. So we may, unfortunately, due to this pandemic, may have lost out on a good bank of 8 to 10 players that we were really hoping would sort of make that breakthrough to the top 150, top 100, or whatever. And so now we have to look at our 16-year-olds, our 17-year-olds, and 18-year-olds. The one kid that actually has shown huge promise is a 13-year-old boy called Manas Dhamne. He's from Pune,
Okay.
and
Okay.
he is actually, I think about 6 months ago when he was under 12, he won sort of the unrecognized world championships for under 12s in Florida.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so which means he's in the top 5 in the world. The fact that he won it straight away tells you that he's good enough to be in the top
Good
3 or top
enough to
5.
be.
Yeah, and that's somebody that we can hope that will go ahead and there's 2 or 3 girls who actually play with us in Pune who are capable of taking taking it to the next level. So, but
Wow.
I think at this point it would be very unfair for me to mention specific names because like I said, someone can just come from somewhere from way behind and just move way ahead.
Move.
So,
Right.
but I mean,
Right.
someone like a Manas Dhamne is a very obvious candidate to take the tennis world by storm. Not now, but maybe 4 or 5 years from now.
So Vineet Mathur is asking DJ, please ask Nandan any future of ITPL in coming year.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so because I don't think
Sorry.
we're ready for it. I mean, what Mahesh did was very creditable. He was the one who brought the ITPL into India. But I think at some point, I don't think we are, as a nation, ready to look beyond cricket, unfortunately. I mean, nothing wrong. Any sport will do well if you have icons in it. And
I
in
agree.
cricket, from time immemorial, we've had icons. But unfortunately, in tennis, apart from the Krishnans and the Amritrajes, and much later they came Leander, Mahesh, Sanya, but we really haven't had icons that somebody wants to emulate. Until that happens, we are not ready for it. We don't want to have an ITPL or a tennis league or whatever kind of league where only foreigners are coming in and doing well. The cricket league is doing well because the Indians are doing well in the cricket league. They're as good as the foreigners, or they are better than the foreigners. Unfortunately, when you bring in a Djokovic or a Federer or whatever, I mean, a Morphils or whatever it is, whoever it is, they're just so much better than the Indian guys who are in there that at some point we don't want to see that. I mean, we want to see a kind of competition between the Indian guys and the foreigners. Until that happens, I don't think we're ready for that league yet. I
Wow.
mean, once again, my personal opinion. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And Nandan, now I want people to know you also a little personally. So, what sort of food do you like, spicy or bland?
Not a very spicy kind of person, but definitely not bland.
And favorite motion picture industry, Hollywood or Bollywood?
Bollywood, without a doubt. Bollywood.
Your choice of sport other than tennis, if you were given a choice between football, hockey, baseball.
Only those 3 specific sports?
Yes,
What is that? Football, hockey, or baseball?
baseball.
I,
Yes.
I, I guess I would have picked football.
Wow,
I mean, I
that is
watch a lot
amazing.
of that too. So.
Fantastic. We have, oh, Namita has joined in and she's
Oh,
saying
and she
all
says all
food.
food. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wait till I get home.
This has been amazing conversation, Nandan. And I know we discussed, from mental robustness to the physical
Yeah.
challenge. Give us one last line for those who aspire to be Olympians. Let us know that it's not difficult, but there's something beyond excellence to be achieved to become an Olympian and make your country proud.
Yeah.
So,
So
your last thoughts on that?
I mean, I spoke about hard work and dedication and sincerity and intensity, and I think everybody does that. But I think the one area where our sports persons in India could learn, and I'm not saying that they're not like that, but what they could learn from a Nadal or a Federer or some of these guys is the humility, that goes with being a champion. You don't need to shout at off the rooftops that you are a champion. People know that. So for example, let me tell you, I mean, when I speak about humility, and I'll bring you the case of something that happened to us in Beijing. We were actually looking for Nadal's coach, and so we saw Rafa, and we said, Rafa, where is Emilio, his coach Sanchez, and
Yes.
you know what would be the standard answer that you would get? Oh, he's sitting in the dressing room, or he's sitting, in the dining room, or whatever. But
Sure.
Nadal's answer was, he's sitting in the dressing room. Can I go and bring him for you? I mean,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, we're
Wow.
talking about arguably the best tennis player in the world, talking
Yes.
to a coach, but he gave me that respect. A, because I was a coach like his coach, and B, I was also representing my nation. I mean, that is humility for you. You know, these guys are in a different. They are different. They're just different. I mean, you had a case where much earlier when Nadal was growing up, and he was exactly the same. He's a friend to everyone. So you actually have a case where we had a case where apparently he lost early in England on grass, and he told Tony, his coach, his uncle, that I'm flying back. And Tony was worried that when he landed, he would be mobbed at the airport. And Nadal was upset because he wanted to get out of England and get back home. So he said, whether there's somebody at the airport waiting for me or not, I'm taking this flight. Tony said that when he landed up at the airport, there was no Nadal. And he said he was worried. And he was worried because he didn't know where Rafa was, and nobody could tell him. So he said, I got out of the airport. Not Rafa's not picking his phone up. He said, I drove out, and as I came out, there's a football field, and I see Rafa playing with about 20 little kids playing football. And
Oh
we're
my
talking,
God.
yeah, and we're talking about a guy who's already in the top 5 or top 10 in the world,
In the
just going out
world.
there enjoying football with 20, 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds. So that's what they're all about. It's not just profession, and it's not just I am so and so.
Skill.
Yeah,
Right.
skill and
Yeah.
whatever. They are tremendous human beings. The one thing that when I spoke about Ramanathan Krishnan, when I said he was my icon or a hero for me, the one thing that he always instilled in all of us, and I used to play a lot of tennis with his son Ramesh, who went on to become top 25 in the world, his nephew Shankar, who played with us, and
Legacy of tennis players, right?
absolutely. And the one thing that Ramanathan Krishnan always said, he said, you guys are not going to become tennis players if you start thinking about winning this match or losing this match. You only need to think about the bigger picture. So don't worry about the small losses in life. Think big and
Big.
dream big, but have the guts to follow your dreams. And basically, he said, if you're not a big thinker, if you don't have a big heart, those were his words. If you don't have a big heart, you're never going to be anything in life. Forget tennis. So that's what Krish was all about.
Wow. Wow. I'm so glad you've shared something so profound. And I'm going to tell my viewers that Nandan doesn't have just a big heart, but he is the most compassionate and the most supportive person that I've ever met.
Thank
Nandan,
you.
it's been a pleasure once again.
Thank
After
you.
what, 4 years of teaming
Yeah.
up together, almost five.
5. Yeah.
And while I cherish our moments during 2016 Rio Olympics, I think I cherish this conversation the most because it was so from the heart, so passionate. My viewers have just loved it. They said, what a candid conversation. And you've been such an authentic leader. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Divya. And for the viewers, if I'm almost at the end of my tennis career, so somebody still needs a driver. You know. Thank you.
In
Thank you very
fact,
much.
In fact, I'm going to take a lead from Rajaram. He's saying you must do some coaching to corporates on performance management. So I'm going to rope you in for that and see how we can bring you to the
Anytime.
business world and bring the
Anytime.
tennis court
Anytime.
learnings to the business world.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Love you, Nandan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All the
Take
best.
care.
All the very best. Bye.
Thank you, viewers, for joining in. Once again, this is your host, Dr. D, and I try and make difficult conversations easy from different worlds. Well, this time we wanted to talk about Tokyo 2020. We wanted to talk about sports. We wanted to talk about mindset. And thank you to all those who've submitted some amazing questions and took out the time. I know this has been the longest show, which is also an acknowledgement and validation for me how much you enjoyed this conversation because you continuously engaged with me there. Do share this show because there's so much learning out there thanks to Nandan Bal and his prodigy Radhika. They've shared some amazing insights. Share this forward with your friends, family. Let everybody have a little bit of a difference in their psyche and how they look at things, especially in terms of the sports field, tennis arena, and the Olympic Games. Once again, have a great weekend, keep smiling, and take care. Bye.